Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1. You know a lot about where we came from, except where it is. Written by Looney123. Master was so very close to finishing his work. Hours of his heart and essence had been poured into it. But there was one final step. The proofread. Saving the file, he exited his text editor and opened up the chat with Harry. His fingers did a small dance of uncertainty over the input, mind still not made up for sure on whether he should ask Harry for his help. After a few moments, he decided to throw his caution behind him, quickly uploading the file. Master then started sending messages to Harry. Hey, Harry, I know this is kind of weird and out of the sky, but can you take a look at this file for me? I decided to try and write something, like a short story. You can read it for the plot and all of that, but I think you'll like it. It's about humans being cold. As he was finishing up his messages, Master saw Harry become active in the chat, typing out his own messages. Yeah, I'll take a look at that for you. And I think you mean cool. Master became infused with excitement. He started messaging Harry while Harry read the story. Well, anyway, it's about how humans are very hardy because of where you all came from and how that helped you get into space so fast. Like, since your home planet had that enormous star giving off all that radiation, and since you came from closer to the center of the galaxy, there were more stars. Space wasn't as hard on you with radiation as it was for the rest of us. And since you didn't have to carry as much radiation shielding, getting into space was easier. Staying in space was easier, and so on. Master stopped messaging Harry, giving him time to finish the story. It wasn't that long. He should reach the end soon. After sitting patiently for a few moments, Master decided that he should look for somewhere on the connection to put his story for others to see. I should ask if there are any human sites that would like this type of thing, it resolved. After a few more moments of searching, the messenger alerted him that Harry had responded. Looks good grammatically, except for a few things that probably are just bad translation or something. And one thing, we don't live in the center of the galaxy. Well, sometimes to the rest of us, it's close enough that we just sort of group you with the center area. We literally are about halfway between the center and the very edge. How does that put us in the center of the galaxy? All right, we're not in the center of the galaxy. But who is going to consider that about the technical detail like that? A lot of us. We have a mind for small details like that. Still ridiculous. It's only human, Lenny emoticon. Wait, how did you do that? End of story. Story number 2. The Three Skulls of Humanity. Written by Kai Dobson. As with any night, the pub was packed with its natural band of diverse regulars. The Skenvar table cheered loudly every few minutes as another round of the triple-pack card game rounded off, jeering the loser into buying the players at the table another round of shots of SciFi. The Dengbai sat quietly in their own corner as they opened their minds to one another as they created new stories, poems, and songs that their species were famous for. The Ickly drinking at the bar as drinkers would. The blind mining species, just icks, clicking their tongues to find their way to the bar for another round of drinks for their Ipsy business partners. As the heavy doors opened, the regulars lazily shifted their collective gaze mid-conversation to see if the latest drinker was a friend. It wasn't. It was a human. The pub became deathly silent as they all stared at the human. Was he one of the monsters that so many of the murdered brethren had died at the hands of? The human slowly moved his arm upwards as he showed the black and white patch on his arm, showing his skull. The usual humdrum of the pub resumed as they accepted him into their locale. The human turned and opened the door to let 2 more humans in who had stayed outside in case the regulars didn't want to take kindly to a human in their midst. As the humans took refuge in the last quiet corner of the pub, a curious Ickly turned to his mentor and whispered, Master, he frowned. That was a human. Why did no one kill him? Because he wore a skull. came the reply. So? They are monsters. Not all of them, the wise elder told his apprentice. The disease they fell to was one that every species has fallen to. However, their reaction was, different. Their monsters come from a disease? Yes, the same disease that hit every species. Thing is, there was no way of fighting it until some of your own kind had caught it. This virus, or whatever it was, managed to hide away in a new patient zero and fester until it could be transferred every which way to more hosts. And then it spread like fire through the dry wood covered in fuel. The Dengbai lost nearly 100 million. The Jusix got lucky and only lost a few million. As horrible that is to say, the Ipsi lost so many they had to recall every colony to go home to focus on breeding for nearly a decade. Us Iklis lost nearly 20 million. One of the Mentals, great Mentals, lost his whole family, but he was given the antidote just in time. So, what happened with the humans? Over half their population died. You cannot comprehend those numbers, youngling. 60+% of their near trillion or so they had spread around the galaxy just, disappeared. What of the stories of these monsters who killed so many? Around a quarter of their whole species went mad with the disease. The virus somehow changed their brain chemistry into one of rage and hunger. The inflicted, as they became known, would sprint through cities and streets and bite, claw, punch and maim any species they came into contact with. Hence the stories of human monsters who clearly know so well. These infected killings caused humans to be outlawed quickly by federations and republics alike. But actual policing was hard because of the infected's ability to still be able to use starships like any of the rest of us would. They could spread to another arm of the galaxy within days, and there was very little anyone could really do about it. And that is why people laughed at Senator Bullock's initiative of Galactic Army or Police Force. The galaxy is too big, too spacious to be readily policed at every corner of the system. However, what you clearly know nothing of is the remainder of the human species. Merely 15% survived somewhat unscathed. Some of them was one way or another naturally immune, and their scientists created their antidote for their species in record time. But it was already too late. The infected had already gone mad. But the 15% would not let their species have a tarnished name forever. They took up skulls. Skulls? Yes. The 3 skulls of humanity are the 3 factions of non-infected fell into. The pirates, going under the skull of some legend of theirs called Jolly Roger. They take up the most dangerous and illicit smuggling jobs, taking anything they can anywhere they are asked for a price. They also steal whatever cargo from any trader who can afford to lose it without breaking their business. This gives them a means of paying for everything the other 2 skulls achieve. The Mandalorians wear the skull of the Mandalore. Again, a legend from their library of literature, I believe. They serve as bounty hunters, security guards, and, for a price, assassins. But only against a target that deserves to die. The money they get also goes to whatever skulls need to finish their mission. And finally, the skull on those men there. The skull of the Punisher. They hunt their own, the infected monsters that ravaged anyone and everyone through the galaxy are hunted by those brave men. They are given no official jurisdiction for what they do and are constantly arrested for various charges like gun violations, trespassing, and occasionally they are arrested, along with the other Skull members, for murder charges that should be levied against the infected who had actually committed the crime. You claim that humanity are merely monsters, but they have a decency to clean up their own mess alone. They wish to restore themselves and everyone else to what they were before the infected killings, but not many believe that they can survive. All 3 skulls may very well die out, but as long as every infected human dies with them, humanity will greet extinction with well-earned pride and a smile. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Barkey. It's difficult to pronounce. Lord Azrakal and Arcadian.